persevere, go forward on my own. There's a bright and shining pure light, cutting through the darkness of the night. Now I can't help crying for my life. It is endless time that I live inside. Take a closer look as who you are.
Wagwan people of today, it's me ShiverAway, and I'm bringing you your Heroes Ultimatum Quirk tier list. Now before I get into it, as per usual with tier lists on this channel, here is your opinion warning. If you cannot handle people's opinions on a Lego anime game, then be sure to fall to the floor and cry about it. I do not care. Now that said, in this tier list, I'm actually not going to be doing it from D tier to S tier. I think that's pretty stupid with the type of game that Heroes Ultimatum is, because all the quirks are overall decently viable. So I'm actually going to be doing it from hard to use to easy to use. So basically from skill based to extremely brain dead. Now, if you're watching the content, it's clear that you enjoy what we have going on over here at the ShiverAway channel, so you might as well subscribe. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now immediately we have hard to use. Now it really doesn't matter from left to right or right to left. I didn't do it like that. Everything in the same tier is equally hard or not hard to use. So immediately you can see we have Solid Air. Now Solid Air, this is actually a really solid PvE quirk, probably one of the best. Now that tornado move, it is something serious in PvP as well, but overall when you compare the moves that Solid Air has, while they can be good, it's just so hard to actually hit them and pull off some viable combos with it. Just when you compare it to how much people will be jumping around, moving around, it's just not that easy. And if you can get someone inside of that box, great, but the thing is, that'll probably be a detriment to yourself in most of the cases, especially if someone has a big AoE quirk. So overall, it's pretty hard to use. Next, we have Shock Absorption. Now, Shock Absorption, I actually hate fighting people with this quirk because they can outplay you really easily. However, if you don't really know what your opponent's moves are, if you don't know if they've used their big damaging moves yet, it's going to be really hard to use. And in some situations, it simply just does not absorb enough. Now, it does have decent moves, okay, but there is a lot better. So I actually cannot recommend it. Next, we have probably the most skill-based quirk in the entire game right now, and that is Erasure. Now, this is actually a pretty OP quirk. If you are good at the game, if you're just good at throwing hands and you have a right build, a build based around power, because all you really need is to erase someone quirk and then go ham on them, and you will basically win every 1v1. But that is assuming that you're good at the base PvP in the game. If you're not, this is the worst quirk for you. But if you're good, if you know that you will beat someone when it's just a quirkless 1v1 every single time, you will be unbeatable with Erasure. And next we have the fairly hard to use. Now these quirks, now they're in a really weird spot, and the reason I say that is because you'll notice that every quirk here is just extremely situational. Now, Hardening, it's pretty decent. It's not a bad quirk. I think that it can definitely be used for, I think if you just want to kind of outlast your opponent, but if your opponent has a high damaging build, a quick just 3-tap, 1-tap build, then man, you're not going to have fun with Hardening. But if you're good at the base PvP in the game, you can definitely make it work, but it is pretty hard to use. Now, Copy, extremely situational. It really depends on you, number one, knowing what every single other quirk's moves are, what they're called, what they do, how to use them, because if you just copy it and you don't know what it does, you could just end up, you know, like getting punished for end lag for a move you don't know. So this is actually really hard to use. You have to know when to use it, but it can be extremely OP. You can copy multiple people's quirks at once, create crazy combos, but again, you have to be in the right situation for it. So sometimes it can be really OP and sometimes it can be absolutely useless. Now next we have Wood. Now Wood manipulation, it's got some, I can't, if I'm being honest, some pretty bad moves. Some of the moves have extreme startup and extreme end lag for no reason. They don't even do that much damage, but that Wood stun move, the Wood binding one, that is what everyone's talking about. You can create some really simple infinite combos if you hit that. It's a crazy move, and I think it really elevates the entire quirk for from being basically useless to actually being very, very viable in a 1v1 situation. But it really depends if you can hit that, and that's why I say that it's extremely hard to use. Alright, now we are into average, and I have to say, these are probably some of the most fun quirks in the game. If you're just looking to have a good time, these are probably the quirks for you. Now, the one that I main, Explosion. Now, I have a really love-hate relationship with Explosion. Man, is it fun to pull off some of the combos, but Explosion, I don't understand why the AoE is so small on a quirk called Explosion. Now, the moves are high damaging, don't get me wrong. You can use 2 moves and immediately kill someone. It is very OP in that regard, but it really depends if you can even hit those, because the startup and the end lag on some of the moves is ridiculous. Now, there's one move that's actually okay, it goes through block, but it has a no joke 4-second startup, absolutely ridiculous. And if anyone knows the move, you can just jump over it. People always dodge it. It's just really annoying. It's like, it can be really good, especially with the last move, the Howitzer Impact, which is almost an immediate guard break, so it's definitely good. Definitely can be S tier if you know what you're doing, but Explosion overall, you can get outplayed so easily just because of the nature of the quirk. Next, we have Engine, and Engine, honestly, this is also a solid quirk. Now, it's really fun to speed around your opponent and just catch them off guard in that regard, and if you can get them in an M1 combo and pop your moves, you can do about 80% of someone's health, even if they have a defense build. Like, it has some really high damaging good moves, but obviously, if your thing overheats or you run out of that engine mode, then it's over, because if you don't have your speed, you're really nothing, so you gotta end fights really quickly. But if you're really good at the game, if you just want to have really quick 10-second fights, 20-second fight, just quick 1v1s with people you want to end matches quickly, this is the quirk for you. But you can't, you better make it quick. That's all I have to say to that. Next, we have Electricity. Now, Electricity is another quirk that I think is, I don't know, it feels like it's really hard to hit some of your moves. Now, they are high damaging moves, they are decent moves, and especially when you get the mode and you have that M1 stun, it's definitely very good for combos if you know what you're doing. But I do think that maybe some of the startup should be lowered, maybe some of the end lag should be lowered, just something about it feels like it's just not quite there. But overall, it is a decent quirk, especially for PvE, definitely fun to use. Next, we have a very unique quirk, that being Decay. Now, Decay, it's the name of its game is DOT, and a lot of its moves actually go through blocks, so you can chip down your opponent like just over time, and I think that's a really cool thing about it, especially if you get the gadget. If you get the gadget, it's very good. Now, I also forgot to say that about Explosion. If you get the gadget, it takes it to another level as well. But just like with Decay, I feel like its only problem is if you're fighting someone that's just a high damage dealer that ends matches really quickly. For example, with Explosion or Engine, you'll probably not be too good because your DOT, it does take a while to chip someone down, and it does do decent damage. It does have good AoE and ranged abilities, but I think that you can really but if you're getting hit by high damage dealing abilities, you can lose a lot of fights. Alright, now we are getting to the no brain needed quirks. Now, we have Permeation. Yeah, I know there's gonna be the Permeation users in the comments. Your quirk does not take skill to use, come on now. You have iframes on basically every ability. You can just pop an ability mid-combo and escape. You can go underground, go through block, and just punch someone in the back of the head. This quirk, it's just made for 1v1s. It's made for PvP. I don't really know how it does in PvE, but in 1v1s, this is just annoying. And if you have some quirks that just rely on you doing like hard hitting damage, for example Engine, you will not win against the Permeation user. It's just gonna be too hard. It's not gonna be possible. It's really just overpowered with the utility of it. I would have to say that if I was doing a regular tier list, this would would be S tier. This would just be a crazy quirk. Like, it's just like, if you have no brain, you'll immediately win a fight. But if you're good with this quirk, if you're good at the game, it's all over. There's no one that's gonna beat you with permeation. Next, we have Hellflame. Now, Hellflame, the funny thing about it is, I don't even think there's a way you can use Hellflame with skill. I think that there's no real, like, insane combos you can do. There's no real way you can, like, outplay people. I think you just like, spam, catch people off guard, you know, wait for them to lower their guard, and then you just win. You just use your abilities. Especially with that buffed burn damage that happened recently. Man, oh man, Hellflame is definitely a good quirk. Now, that's not to say that it's straight OP. It does have its downsides. It can be, just can be beaten, but I do think that it's definitely one of the more brain dead quirks. Now we have One for All, and everyone that has One for All just knows it's a good quirk. I mean, as you'd expect, One for All was gonna be a good quirk, but the thing about it is that it's already good enough. It moves are high damaging, don't have too long of a startup, and then once you get your full cowling, you essentially cannot lose a 1v1. You can literally two-shot people with any move, block breaking people. It's just a really crazy quirk, and I bet it would be really fun to use. The only real downsides I could say to this is that it does have a decently long startup when you go into your mode, and I hear with some other moves, but apart from that, there's really nothing to hate about One for All because it basically has everything. Even if you're bad at the game and you just want to spam abilities, you can do that because One for All does like a lot of damage, and I mean a lot, probably some of the highest damaging moves in the entire game. Now, the thing about One for All and why I don't put it straight and easy to use is because you do have to put in some combos to actually block break people in PvP and other stuff like that. But apart from that, One for All, there's no going wrong with it. A lot of people in the community actually say it's the best quirk in the entire game. Okay guys, and now we are into easy to use, the big boys. Now these are the things that you can quite literally dash backwards, spam, dash backwards, spam, just spam, 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 and win. Extremely easy to use. So I'm gonna start off with ice manipulation, and if you didn't know already, I absolutely hate this quirk. If you use ice manipulation, you probably got bullied in school or something. Something's probably going wrong in your life to make you just abuse this busted quirk. So let me tell you what this does. Now, you have some pretty good moves like that mist one that's just a DOT area effect, but that's okay. Then you have another type of stomp move, brings ice around you. Yeah, that's okay. But then you have an ice skating ability that lasts for like 10 seconds. I don't know why that was nerfed. The explosion move that does the same thing was literally nerfed, but the ice one wasn't okay. And while you're riding on that, you can use moves on top of it. You can use moves while running at the speed of light. There's almost nothing you can do about that. Not to mention the giant ice spike, the giant pillar, the ice wall. Just get rid of that. For some reason, that can take at least 1/3 of your health when you use it, and then it just blows you across the map, and you think, well, that was his ultimate ability, he shouldn't be able to use it again. Then 10 seconds later, it's already off cooldown, you get hit by it again. Now, it is blockable, but the startup on it is almost non-existent. There's smaller AoE moves, such as with explosion, that have a 10-year startup, but with ice, oh, you just touch the ground, a huge, almost undodgeable spike comes up, flings you across the map, and takes half your health. Okay, sure, buddy. Nice quirk, absolutely busted. Please nerf it or something, but yeah, it's definitely a solid quirk. Next we have here is Overhaul. Man, oh man, Overhaul is as good as you'd expect it. Like, you know, if you've seen Overhaul in the anime, obviously it's going to be as good as as you'd expect it to be. Now, Overhaul has a lot of moves, and they're all, like, you want to use them all. They're all viable. Now, it has one AoE move where you bring up the ground, and that does a lot of damage if it hits. And even if people block it, it takes takes over half of your block bar, so it's a really good chance of it block breaking your opponent. Now, Overhaul also has some really good range spam abilities. It is really OP in that regard. You can run back and just start spamming stuff. And in addition, you also have a mode which just boosts your everything, and it's absolutely crazy. Overhaul users, I don't even enjoy fighting them. I dread fighting them. Same with ice manipulation. It's like I don't even want to fight against them. Not to mention the Overhaul grab move with literally, I don't think, it doesn't really matter your build, it will take 70% of your health. It will literally just, if you get hit by that, you probably already lost the fight. Like, it's really OP and like a solid quirk. Now guys, that is the easy to use. If you get these, no, regardless of the rarity, do not spin them. You'll have a great time. Alright guys, so that's gonna be it for my quirk tier list. Now, I really think every quirk can definitely be used. Now, there's always gonna be some quirks that are just objectively better than other ones, and that's why I put them on a higher tier one, but I'm actually really impressed with the balance of the game. I think the game is actually overall pretty balanced. There's not too much to complain about, even if I do joke about how I say, oh, Explosion is so bad, the AoE is so small. Explosion is actually really fun to use. I actually really enjoy using it despite what people say about it. Now guys, if you enjoyed this, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.